Okay, so the animators here, you can all see that, right? And you can see that there's no transitions. I haven't even set any transitions. I haven't bothered to do any parameters because all I need is, in this case, it's not a game, it's just a cinematic. So all I need is for the timeline to access that animator. And once I've accessed that animator, I have access to those animations. And if you zoom in, I can even blend them here. So I can add, ooh, I can add the animations from the timeline animator. And if I pull these apart, you can see that one does like walk here. So it's still walking. And then it snaps to the idle. But if I shove them together, eh, they kind of blend together here. So it'll transition between them. You can see that transitioning quite smoothly there, which it wouldn't otherwise. And if you extend whatever animation it is, you can see that you see the way it says L1, L2, L3. It's just looping the animation over and over. So it really allows you to um, control what you. I've just copied the walk animation there, and I can now blend this into here, for example. So then that should blend at the end. There you go. And it's still blending with between the two of them. So she's kind of half idling, half walking. So it gives you quite a lot of power over the animations, and you can just control at what point to do what animation. And also, I have a separate animation on her actual controller. That's just an empty container that contains the entire character, and that one is just there for me to move that controller. As you can see here on the one above, it just moves it. So just moves it and then press play. That's it. So it's quite simple, but you can do a lot of stuff with this. You can call audio cues. You can pull audio track here. You can do like activation and animation is probably where you're gonna do the most of these stuff. And you can also do like Cinemachine tracks. So I have two Cinemachine cameras here. And in fact, what I did was even simpler than usual. I literally just have like an animation for movement on the Cinemachine cameras, and then I just turn one off and turn on the other. As you see here, CM1 is turned off and CM2 is turned on. And what that just means is you should be able to see the camera here flips to camera 2, and that's when it cuts, and you can see the preview here from over the shoulder look to boom right up front. Super simple, super easy. Let me just delete that cue.
Could you like share this file?
Yeah, of course I can. Like the project.
Yeah, just so we
Yeah,
can
I
like
can
look
do.
at
I
it.
can do. I'll share this project, and I'll also share my Cyberpunk one as well. It's on GitHub. So then you should be able to just download it and mess with both of them. The Cyberpunk one has the HDRP stuff on it, which I can go over if we have time today or next week. And then this one will have the timeline stuff on it. Okay, it's in a scene if you're looking for it. If you just look for scenes, it's in the timeline example scene.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Any questions before I move on to the next bit? Should be fairly self-explanatory, I hope. Cool. So then the last bit is we're just what you're going to do for the next like 2-3 weeks, and then it's going to bop into review week really. We're going to do storyboards. We're not going to do like one for each, and this is what would happen, by the way. In a full production, you'd get a storyboard, you'd get a color board, you get a mood board, you get a light board, you get a style guide, you get a beat board, you get an animatic, all over the shop. It's a lot of stuff. It's a huge production because people want to make sure that it runs perfectly. But what we will do is we'll just do this, which is like a storyboard or a beat board, where you show each scene and a little explanation of what's happening underneath. And this is for two reasons. One is if you're producing for an entire team, any of the team can look at the whole thing and kind of go, okay, I understand. It's like a comic book. I understand what this cinematic is trying to do. This is from Captain Hook, not Captain Hook, fucking
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. Thank you. So hopefully anyone should be reading this and be able to understand what's happening. Um, and it's also for reference for later on. So this Grizz and Norm, they're on Insta. They're very good. They're animators, and they go through a lot of stuff about drawing, but also about storyboarding. So in this case, there's like some simple, really simple. They'll post like one thing a day. In this case, it's talking about head framing and storyboarding. So like, where do I put the heads? Do I just like shove them in, or oh no, I should probably put them in thirds. This one's super dark because it's close to the camera, but really I want my attention on this one, so that's more lit. And you can kind of see from this storyboard alone, you understand how to set the scene. And hopefully, one of the major things about storyboards is when I set the scene like this, I kind of go, okay, now I know I need lights. I know I need like some little stuff in the background. I don't know what those are. A vase with flowers, maybe. I know I need like the roof to be textured, so I can't just leave it blank. And it shows you, it kind of starts allowing you to create an asset list of what you need to do in order to achieve this frame, if you know what I mean. This is an example of a color board. Now, this one is purely color. It's obviously Finding Nemo, and it's just there to kind of give the lighting artists a sense of like how to light the scene in terms of color, in terms of like what should be in shadow, what shouldn't be in shadow. Um, we will try to combine them, so we'll have a storyboard. It's optional. I'm not going to force you. If you just want to do a black and white storyboard, I know we're not technically artists, we're game designers, game developers. So we haven't been doing this for like, 4 years, which ideally you would be. But if you want to try, I do recommend having a black and white and then coloring it. Like in Photoshop, you can just put it on put another layer over it and set it to overlay. And you should just be able to put color lighting on it and it'll affect everything below. And this is an, oh, fuck you. This is an animatic. This is the Gorilla's feel good animatic. No. Let's go to YouTube. So you see the way it suggests the storyboard? Is for you to kind of again double check whether the motion works, but also double check the timing and double check what you need to make. In Unity, this is much easier for us. So basically, someone had to draw all the storyboards for this entire sequence, and they're putting them together as an animatic. We can do stuff like, okay, I know I need a spaceship flying above me. I can just make a cube for now, and I call it like spaceship prefab. Later on, I can just replace that cube. But for now, it shows me like it's flying over. It allows me to see where the camera's looking, what the composition is, where that cube is. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? Um, Stop me if it doesn't. So again, just to go back, there's loads of different types of stuff, but what I want is a beat board and an animatic. This is a style guide. Now, again, this is really fucking good if for your CV. If you can sort out a style guide, what it allows you to have is it allows you to kind of like define rules for the world, what they look like. And this is a reverse style guide that I did. So this is Tales of Princess Kaguya. It's on Netflix. And someone was trying to do a kind of like something based on it. So, and they didn't understand, well, how do I make it look like it? Because if you look at the whole thing, it's very difficult to go, oh, make something that looks like this style. But if you start breaking it down into all the little rules by kind of going, oh, I guess they seem to be using this type of brush. They seem to be only having very soft curves, like their clothes are really puffy. They're not like their clothes never have any hard lines. It's always curved lines. You start understanding and breaking down the rules, and you start getting closer to what it's supposed to look like. Even down to stuff like as simple as like how the eyes look like, and how they're like where hard edges are allowed to be and where you can only use soft edges and soft lines. Here is a color style guide, and it's basically saying this character only uses these colors and nothing else. This is, I'm not sure if anyone's seen this. I have this in my first year character design slides, but people may not remember. And again, style guides explaining like, oh, for example, simple things like this. The noses are always a different color. It's a silly small thing, but it's a very unique style for this game in particular. Overlapping areas of a darker color, again, over and over, like patches for the elbows. They're little small things, but if you follow all these rules, you now look like this game. And here's one from. This is how I'm not expecting something like this, but this is how crazy they actually get in a full production. This is for Mulan, and this is an internal Disney one, style guide. Sorry, and it you can see how complex it. And we haven't even got to the entire body. This is just this dude's face. Like, never mind anything else. And then this is for Adventure Time, and they have all these little rules that you'll never notice. But if those rules are broken, you kind of go, oh, that doesn't look like Adventure Time. I'm not sure why. And all these rules are set in place for the whole team to look at. And here's just more. I'll let you read that in your own time. Yeah. I don't know if people remember either, but we talked about this already. The differences between circles, square, and triangles on the types of characters that you want to have. And here's more examples where that one's literally like, this is the most dependable member of the group, but she's kind of dangerous. So what do? Square with some small triangles. Like, it's very basic character design, but when you put it all together, people don't really notice. Same with her. Sphere, 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 but like a little bit harsh. So some triangles, some triangles. That's it. Coolie Bups. These are very good search results. I would highly recommend looking at this, especially like the Overwatch one. Sorry, and there's a link down here as well. I'll put these up on the Asset Design Classroom after this. So, we're an hour in. I can do the HDRP stuff if people want. I'd like to take like a fucking 2-minute break before that, if that's okay. Or we can leave it till next week. Does everyone understand what I want in terms of the beat boards? Like, never mind the animatic. Don't worry about that shit first. Just the beat boards. Does everyone understand what they are?
Yeah.
I guess, can they be stick figures by any chance?
Yeah. So the answer is yes, Tab. Like, they can be. They probably should be a little more than stick figures. Or at least, like, the first one you draw. Like, let me show this example here. So say you had this example, um, and here you might draw like kind of at least the silhouette of the character, and then later on if that same character shows up, it's like just a really shitty scribble, like here, exactly like here. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
here and here. So like it's well defined here, so I know, okay, that's what I'm looking at. And then the next time I see it, like, it can be a little more shitty, but I know that it's this character, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
There.
So this is a storyboard. It doesn't have words underneath. We're just going to skip directly to beatboards purely because of time, unfortunately. I would like to, if this was a full thing, it would be like, scrappy storyboards first and then beatboards underneath. However, if you do want to do that, if you want to do a storyboard first with no words and then do a beatboard after, absolutely go for it. Make sure you submit that with your assignment as well, and you will get extra marks for doing stuff like that. Like, the more planning you do, the better. So we're going to do this beat board, blah blah blah, with all the words below explaining, and I should be able next week to review them and go, okay, I understand what your cinematic is. If I don't understand what your cinematic is, or if no one else understands what your cinematic is, it's probably a bad sign that you probably haven't put enough information in there. And then the next step is we're going to do an animatic, which is just a really shitty in Unity, cubes flying around, boxes flying around, or spheres, or whatever it is. And that's just to test composition, test camera angles and lighting and stuff like that. And you can be building yourself in the meantime. So if you have something built, throw it in. That's fine. But it's just more so we can make sure the whole sequence runs properly before we even start building fancy stuff and put stuff in. Because you might be building stuff that isn't. One thing the beatboard should give you as well, and again, extra marks if you have that, asset list. So I like this, I know I need train tracks, I know I need like this tank, I know I need this little soldiers, and I know I need swords and shields. All of this now becomes an asset list that I can start building out. Like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And if it gets too big, you might go, okay, fuck, we need to cut the scene, cut that scene, cut this sequence. And that's why people do this, and that's why in real production, when people see students having this, it really shows that, like, oh, I understand. I'm not like some person who's going to have a giant idea that I can't actually accomplish. I've actually done this and I understand how the process is. So what's the video? Shall we do HDRP after? If you give me like a 5 minute break, or do you want to leave it till next week?
You can do it now. I feel.
Leave it.
Fair.
We just
Fair.
did loads of stuff, so like I'd rather like get familiar with the timeline and then by next week. Like,
I think some people might also
Okay.
want to prepare submissions for the 1 p.m.
Yeah, for the group project stuff. All right, that's
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I guess.
That actually gives me more time, so I'm happy with that. So what I'll do now is I will share that project with the timeline scene, and I will set up the. I'll update the assignment on Google Classroom to talk about the beatboards and stuff. And if I can find some beatboard templates, let me just look beatboard template. Is that Owen's beatboard? So like, if you look for storyboard template or beatboard template, that works perfect. Like here's it says storyboard for music videos, but who gives a shit? It's the same. I don't get the joke. What's this?
Oh,
Oh, it's unmuted. Shit.
What's what?
that's this.
What? Okay, whatever. I'll put that into Classroom. So essentially for next week, all I need is a filled out beatboard. And if you have an animatic, fucking fantastic. If you don't stress. I just need a beatboard for next week so I can read through it and understand what's going on in your asset list. Be careful, be very careful with the beatboard because I will be looking at it and going like, how come you don't have this here and this here and this here? So expect your asset list to like double based on what you have. It may not happen, but just expect that. Plan for double. And if it's too big, again, cut stuff. Um, and then we'll hopefully go through HDRP stuff next week as well, if we have time after the review. So basically, this is a pretty quick class. Yeah, whatever. Any questions?
what's the difference between a storyboard and a beatboard? Are
Hmm.
they?
Good question. So, that's actually one right here. That's class. Beatboard or storyboard. So, it doesn't answer. Basically, a storyboard is this, right? Where there's no real explanations. It kind of just goes through. A beatboard is a little more complex. It's a more defined storyboard. So storyboards can be like, if I look through this, I know where the camera's moving. I know what's happening ish, but I don't fully know the specifics. If I look at a beatboard, let's look at one from or Pixar maybe might have some. They're usually quite highly guarded. Oh, there's a Ratatouille one. It will show me more about like, oh, they don't have the, because down here they would have like the text usually, but it will show me a lot more detail, so you can see like this is the storyboard. Look at the detail of the storyboard as opposed to a beatboard. A beatboard's almost like fully final, so I really can see all the assets and where it's going, as opposed to storyboards like really rough. The storyboard only really focuses on the main elements, and the beatboard usually has text explaining what's happening. So they're like, in this case, they'd be like, oh, she's angry, she's moving from left frame to forward frame, she picks up the knife from the counter, so you can understand how it would play out a bit better in an animatic. Has that answered the question?
Yeah.
Cool. But so we're just going to skip direct to beatboards just purely for time constraints. I do not expect this level of detail at all, but I do expect like all the stuff that you think will be in the background to be in the background. So like just a little bit more detail than this. This is pure like, I know it's a phone, I know it's a hand, but I have no clue what's behind. I guess a road, I don't know. All right. In that case, if there's no other questions, we can leave it there, and I'll do that
What's
stuff.
what's an
What's a
animatic?
Okay.
Animatic.
So the animatic. Let's see if I can find a different example. An animatic usually is made of your storyboards. Oh,
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's a really good one. I'm gonna nick that for my slides. So you see, like this is a storyboard, and it's just like it's following the same time. So if you press play on it, it the same things happen at the same time, and it's just
Yeah.
using the one-page pictures, and it allows you just to test whether the timing works. So you can see like that's a finish, like, you know.
Okay.
Now for us, we don't have to use you can if you want. You don't have to
Okay.
use your storyboards to make the animatic. What we can do is just go directly to Unity and just use blocks and shit to make them fly around, move around, to be like, that is the character, that is the enemy, this is a fucking rabbit, this is what they're doing, and we can have the animations all work already. Even though they're just blocks, you can still kind of get a sense of, is this interesting and engaging? Are the composition working? Is the lighting working, etc. Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Is the automatic? Will we have to make an automatic for the project?
Yes, you will. So you'll
Okay.
have I'll update the assignment now, but basically you'll have a beat board
Yeah.
for me, you'll have an animatic,
Yeah.
you'll have an asset list,
Yeah.
and then you'll have the final cinematic.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Does it have to be based on a game or a film, or can we make up our own? Or
I
does
have
it
a
have to be our
theme.
own?
I have a theme. You don't have to follow the theme. This was the theme, but you
Ooh.
don't have to follow it.
Okay. So can it be like something we've seen, or does it have to be totally? We have to make it ourselves.
What do you mean by something you've seen?
Like a scene from a show or something,
Oh,
or
try
is it?
replicate it like.
Yeah.
Um, you can. I always am worried about those things because if it's a famous scene, are you doing like, for example, a cartoon version of Reservoir Dogs, that kind of thing? Like it's the same scene, but you're putting a twist on it, like it's a complete. Or are you just completely trying to replicate it?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I was just asking you what's
So,
acceptable and what's not.
from my
Like,
perspective, I don't really mind. Like
all right.
in my mind, even if you do a direct copy, you're probably learning something.
Yeah.
However, I'm talking about like this is a huge piece, and it's a very good piece for your portfolio. So if I'm talking from in terms of a recruiter, if I'm a recruiter and I look at someone, again, let's use a Reservoir Dogs example. I'm watching it and it's like a shittier version of the Reservoir Dogs scene. I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
why? Like, but if it
Yeah.
was the Reservoir Dogs scene, but they're all puppies, I might be like, huh, that's actually funny and it's actually really good, and I get it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
So you
so
could do like a twist on something,
yeah,
maybe.
I would
Yeah.
suggest that. I again, if you do want to do a complete copy, I'm fine. I'm just concerned that like you're going to be trying to replicate something that's taken a team of like thousands of people years to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's grand. Thank you.
no better. Any other questions?
When's the character due again?
Is it not gonna date on it? No, it
I
was
don't know.
supposed to be set
think it
for
does.
like
Get rid of
I think
April.
it does. Let's see classroom. Yeah, remote classes are great. We should always do this. Fuck college.
Yeah.
It's great for me. It's
More
probably terrible for
concentration.
you. Is anyone actually drinking?
What? Like coffee,
No,
tea,
did you
like
see
what?
the drinking game?
No.
Oh, no.
It's on, wait, let me post it. It's on the second year mechanics, but I nick it from there and copy it here.
Okay.